I'm your heavenly host on Hey Have. I'm available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon. In today's episode of Having Faith Over the Midst of Chaos, this episode helps people recognize overthinking rooted in fear, slowing down, and choosing faith over control. I hope this helps anyone that's out there listening or watching. Take care. Just too much. It's fear trying to stay in control. Sometimes when we overthink a lot, whether that is something that's really important in our lives or something that is minor, we kind of start to feel that fear get in the way of things. And I don't want to keep going through that every time when something major or minor that's happening in my life. So here are some questions, or a question that I was thinking about as I was making this episode or writing out my episode. What does overthinking feel like in real life? All I imagine is, when it comes to my mind, is that I could be going through something new. Like I can be not something new, but going through the same usual routine. I could be applying for a new job. I could be looking for a house. I could be doing so much, and I start to have these fears that many times I got rejected, or many times where some things just did not go the way that I think. I start to believe those thoughts, or believe the fear that didn't even happen get the best of me. So one thing that I was watching from Ashley Heatherton's video, she said something about speaking the word of God as a weapon to fight back the enemy's thoughts, right? And within that, we can get so anxious and letting fear get in the way of those things. But if we try to speak something that belongs in the Word, in the Bible, whether that is just something that came to us automatically or something to refresh our minds, will help out a way for us to not to overthink it all the time, or letting fear be in control. So, before we even talk about solutions, let's slow our bodies down, because fear lives in the body before it lives in the mind. So, I know that since this year has been a lot, job markets, housing markets, a lot of things when it comes to federal government and things like that. And that is not what I want to say or disclose, but just things that I've noticed that's been happening in this world. Whether we let what we see scares us, things that we have no control. Sometimes just breathing, us slowing down, can manage our thoughts differently. And when I was watching Kalia Jackson, to just kind of gather my thoughts of how I want to move forward, I thought about this section as slowing down and breathe. And she mentions managing my thoughts, or managing your thoughts, interrupt them and write them down. And sometimes writing down can help. If journaling, like I said before in one of my older videos, if journaling does not help, maybe taking a breather can help, or you having a conversation with someone that you're close to, or anybody can help with something personal or something that you've seen that has an effect on you. Me personally, I like to write them down, but whatever works for you is sufficient. And the question that she mentioned that I want to share is, what is the simplest way to move forward? In my case, it is making my podcast, and as I'm coming back, the simplest way is me just being consistent and being disciplined. And what that looks like for you guys is probably motivational videos. For me personally, it looks like it's me sitting down, figuring out what works and what doesn't. And once I figured that out and being consistent and being disciplined, I just figured out that this easiest way for me to not overthink it so much. And I hope that helps. So like I said in my other part about like housing market as an example and job market, something that I came across for emergency, and I will add the clip on here after this part, but I want you guys to take away from this section is that overthinking didn't give us clarity, it just gave us exhaustion. And it's true, sometimes we get exhausted from our mindset of how things are changing or when we are losing faith of things. And in this case, I've decided to add in something else that I can't relate to just yet as a way of dealing with the fact that sometimes fear and our thinking patterns can lead us to feeling exhausted. So I hope that what he said in that clip can give us a little, shaking us up a little bit differently, and learning that we all have our own life and own path, and what looks different on this person or me or someone else will look different on you, in a way where we know that we all live life, but no need to compare, if that makes any sense. Do not fear
as to what the reality is offline, because none of us are on the same track or timelines, but all of them are equally okay because we are all moving at our own pace. And I do want to also add a quick disclaimer that this video in no way is endorsing that homeownership is like the right way, because as we're going to see in this video, that's not necessarily the right path for everybody, and not everyone needs to aspire for that, and that's okay, because housing can and will look different for all of us.
Job markets or housing. Even when we have a lot, fear the road ahead, for God walks with you. His hand will guide you, and His grace will sustain you through every trial. Deuteronomy 31 verse 6. I want you guys to take away, whether it was the fear and anxious part, or fear and anxiety part, or slowing down and breathing, trusting, or the example when I mentioned about our plate, from new beginnings or growing pains or managing from one thing to another, we shouldn't allow our thoughts and fear take control. Instead, breathe and let God take the lead. I know that was a good rhyme or a bad rhyme and things like that, but this is just the beginning. And even when we have those moments again, I want myself to look back at this video, but I also want anybody who can relate to think about this. No need to do this or do that. Just take one thing at a time, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Even